something in my tooth. Welcome back, everyone. It is our normal Sunday video. We did one on Halloween, which I hope you guys found entertaining. It was kind of spooky, and some people really liked it. Got a lot of subscribers on that one. That's a weird thing about YouTube these days. Well, I guess it's been going on a while, but if you make true crime stuff or scary stuff, people just flock to it. Sort of like negative videos. I've had a bunch of people complain because recently I've been doing more negative videos, and that's just how it is. It's money, plain and simple. Negative videos get more views. I don't make the rules. I'm just following them, and if that's what's getting the views, that's what people want. You got to follow your audience. That's all it is. It's smart business. Now, so I still try and mix in some positive ones, but right now, the money for making videos is up. Holiday season, advertisers are paying more, so you do what you do. It's business. And I've had a lot of people going, "Oh, you're so negative these days." Well, sorry. A few months I'll go back to being positive again. But yeah, it's weird. That's just how humans are, and that's how YouTube is. Once you start making videos, the more negative, the better. Just like I've said before, like they say in the news, if it bleeds, it leads. I don't talk about bloody things, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I'm still live. Still a little foggy brain. Latest update. Everything. I'm getting winded easy. I've been trying to exercise a little bit, but it's just rough right now. It's kind of rough. But over time, things get back to normal. Speaking of back to normal, I'm going to tell you about a guy I met when I was at Fort Lewis named Clark. I don't think I'll use his first name. His last name's Clark. I don't get the okay to tell this story, so I won't use... sorry, something in my tea. Got in my tooth. Anyway, so I don't have his approval to do this. Can't get his approval now, but get into that. Clark was a very interesting guy. They used to call him the Turtle. He's a big guy, kind of thick, and he never fell out of a run or anything like that. He was just always towards the back. I wouldn't say, he's just not a sprinter. Guy could just run forever. He had endurance. He was resilient as all hell. That's the other reason. I mean, you could put this guy through a lot, and he did it and did his job. He's a little bit slower than everyone else, but he's a good guy. Good guy. I had a couple different nights where we were doing CQ together. You always have to have a runner when you're in charge of the building for the night, and he ended up with me a few times. We talked. You're stuck with someone for like 12 hours straight. You end up talking alone, But went to the field with him a few times, stuff like that. And he just had a very interesting story. Every time I talked to him, I wanted to get all the details. So Clark's actually from Alabama originally. And he ended up in Fort Lewis, Washington with me. But he grew up in Alabama, and he had ended up in the foster care system. Apparently his father had passed away or something, and then the mom was a raging alcoholic, apparently, and he fell into the foster system. He said, that was when he was about 8, and he bounced around to a couple different homes, and right around the time he got, I think he said 8th grade, 9th grade, he was put with a family, and they were decent to him, and they had 2 other kids, but he was a pretty smart kid. He always wanted to get out of that, wanted to build his own life, and he knew when he turned 18, the state's not going to take care of him. He had to make up for himself. That's what one of the parents along the way said. You got to be prepared. When you're 18, you're out of the system, and you have to make your own way. So he took that to heart, and he did as good as he could in school. He said always was, not the top of the class, but up there. As time went on, the family he had been stuck with there at the end, he said they gained a little resentment because their kids just weren't that smart, and they didn't try hard enough. They were lazy. And so he was outshining their own biological kids, and he thinks that rubbed the father the wrong way. And it just started getting worse and worse and worse, and he started spending more and more time at the library. And he just read all the time. Every time I saw him, he had a book in his hand. Just every chance he could. If we stopped for 2 minutes, he had a book out. That guy could read. He'd read like a whole book over the weekend. Myself, I could read a book. ADHD, I usually read a chapter or so, then I got to do something else for a while. It takes me a while, but I get through books. This guy was just like laser focused. So anyway, Clark spent a lot of time at the local library. Mainly it was because he wanted to get out of that house. He didn't like going home after school, he said, and they were just always crappy to him. It's like, here's a meal, there's your bed, go in there and shut up. And they just treated him like crap, he said. And it got worse and worse as time went on. And he got to write the speech for his high school graduation, which was nice. This is a kid that's been in foster care. He did so good that they actually let him write the speech, or write a speech for the class. So that was nice. I always thought that was, you know, you just don't expect it from, you just get this image of a kid that's, you know, either living in poverty or, you know, in the foster care system. You just think that they're not getting the help they need, so they're not going to do good. He made himself do better. He didn't need any guidance. He got one piece of advice when he was in the foster care system, and he was on a mission. So graduation day comes along. Clark, you know, he said he never really had girlfriends or anything like that. He had maybe a couple friends at school. He comes home from graduation, cap and gown still on. Everything he owns is on the front lawn. Everything. He had turned 18 a couple months earlier, and he graduated high school. They just put his shit out. Didn't even talk to him. Changed the locks, everything. He said they put everything out except some money he had saved. He said it was only like $300-400. This is, you know, 1990, so that's like $600 today's money. But they'd put everything out. He had nothing to do. He had nowhere to go. He grabbed what he could carry in a backpack, he said, and a couple things under his arm, and he marched down to a recruiter that had been hitting him up in school, seeing if he wanted to join the military, and he thought he could just go there and go, I'd like to leave right now. Because he didn't know where he was sleeping that night. One thing leads to another. And he uses the recruiter's phone, he said. Because, no, this is before cell phones and all that. I think cell phones had just been coming out. But he used the recruiter's phone to call a guy that he used to talk to at the library all the time. He's all, we were sort of friendly. And he just asked if he could stay the night. And that's all he wanted to do. He gets there, and apparently the parents of this kid from the library are really decent people. They have him for dinner. They start talking to him, find out what happened. And he tells them the whole story. I've got no place to go after tonight, and da-da-da-da-da. I'm going to join the Army. These people said, we have a motorhome on the side of the house, and it's under a little thing, and they're all, you could stay there till the day you leave, whatever you need to do. And he said that was the best family life for like 4 months that he'd ever had in his life. He said it was wonderful. It's almost like, he said he wished he hadn't joined the Army, but he didn't think they'd let him stay there indefinitely, so he wanted to go to college. It just wasn't in the cards for him, even though he had the grades, didn't have the money. But he basically, the way he put it, in his exact words, I cherished every single day of that 4 months I was living with that family. He said, you know, it's like they'd wake him up for breakfast, made sure he got something to eat, made sure he, you know, got driven around to his recruiter things. The recruiter was welcome in the house, cup of coffee in the morning and stuff like that whenever he had to go someplace. So if you don't know, if you never joined the military, the recruiters normally show up and take you to these different things that you have to go to, and they'll drive you to go take your tests for the military, and then they drive you down the day to actually check you in before you fly off to basic training. So he said they're really decent people. He said he got in the Army and it suited him. Everyone was treated fairly. Which became a big part of his life, treating people fairly. Didn't talk down to people. And now, for a while there, he had this one guy in the unit that was, this dude was dumb. Don't want to talk bad about a soldier, but this guy was dumb. And Clark helped him with everything, all the time, just trying to get the guy through. Eventually, the guy got thrown out of the Army because I think, I don't know, there's something wrong with him. But they had gotten rid of him, but Clark tried to help him every step of the way. So Clark was definitely a good guy. I had lost touch with him when he left. We'd been together for about 2 years in the same unit, and I'd lost touch with him. And then one day I got an email from him, probably around 96, 97. I got an email from him, and he was living in like Central California. And he had, you know, was coming down the beach. He knew I was from Redondo Beach, wanted to know if I was still living there. I said, yeah. So we met up and we had lunch. Brought his wife, Izzy, with him. And we had lunch at the beach. And it was really nice. Caught up with him. He'd eventually got out of the Army and he'd gone to UCLA. You know, I forget what degree he got, but he graduated at UCLA and started working for the probation department or corrections or something. He wasn't a probation officer. He was more of the management of that stuff, but he did something for him. And that's where he spent his whole career. In the probation, and I know they got a word for it, and I know they're probation officers, but he was in corrections, and then and that's what he did his whole career. And he retired after doing that for 20-something years. A lot of times when you work for the government too, and he was in the National Guard, they'll count your National Guard years towards your retirement. So it's weird. I don't know how it works, but it used to be a thing. I don't know if it still is. So Clark and his wife, they ended up having these daughters, and they came down probably about 4 or 5 different times over the years. Pretty much up until right before I moved up here to Oregon. Probably around 2008 was the last time I saw him. It was really interesting. It was really interesting. Definitely an interesting character. So when he retired, this is the most interesting thing, I think. He had started in spare time woodworking, like carving, anything from little statues to, I think he was making totem poles for a while. But it wasn't just like using traditional stuff. He'd make totem poles that were extremely intricate. The dude was an artist, absolute artist. But he'd get down the Dremel and, cut little tiny things into it. Well, he had made a headboard for a bed that was beautiful. It was like very ornate. It was just, he showed me pictures of it. It was beautiful. And he took it to some kind of wood crafting place or wood. It was like a convention of woodmaker or woodworkers. And someone gave him $30,000 for that thing. I remember him saying $30,000 for a wooden headboard that he had made. And he couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe that someone did that. That guy got him in touch with some other designer or whatever, and he started getting orders for different headboards like that. This guy made his fortune after retirement making headboards. I'm not even kidding. That he made headboards for people all around the country, and extremely rich people were buying his headboards for like $60,000 and $70,000 and stuff like that. As the years went on, they got more expensive. And he said, each one would take him about a month to make. And he had more orders than he could handle, he said. And he never hired anyone else, just did them himself. So him and his wife were living really good after retirement. Really good. The business was going, they had retirement checks coming in, and they had a house down on, like in Bullhead City, or near Laughlin, I think it was. But it was on the river. It was like on the river, he had a boat, all that good stuff. He was just living the life. He'd invited me up there a couple times after he retired, or actually before he retired. And to tell you the truth, I think the money started flowing in before he retired, and that's part of the reason he did retire. But he retired a little bit early, so whatever. So him and his wife had the home that was in like, I don't want to say Bakersfield, but somewhere around that area. And then he had one out there by the river, and I think their plan was to actually eventually just live at the river thing. And I think they eventually did. He wanted out of California. Imagine that. He did it way before it got popular. So I think he just saw the system and how California was run, and he just wanted out. It wasn't his thing anymore. So the last time I saw him, he was about to have his first grandchild. That's what it was. He ended up having like 3 daughters. 3 daughters, every single one of them worked as dental hygienists. It's like one got a job as a dental hygienist, and then the other ones started, going to school for it and doing all that stuff. So this man went from Mobile, Alabama, different parts of Alabama, but I think the main area he was at was Mobile. At least that's where he graduated high school. And he always said that he just wanted to find his place. He never felt like he had a place. That during one of the conversations we'd had, he said that's what it was, living in foster care. He never felt like he was home, ever. And then he goes in the Army, and that's kind of a transient lifestyle. You might be someplace at a base for 2 years, and then, another year at another place. So he never had found a home. He meets his wife, they have their home, finally settles down, and he found his America. Well, the America he found, Bakersfield or whatever, wasn't the America he was looking for. He knew he wanted to get out of there, but girls went to school, they got, entrenched in the community there, And that just sometimes when your life starts happening in a place may not be the perfect place for you, but you end up being there. And that's what he was doing. He was living his life, got his girls through college, their hygienist training, and all that, and they were out of the house, so he decided they were heading out to the river, live there. They could finally make that jump and find where he wanted to be, and they loved it there. Talked to his wife a couple years ago. She told me how things were going and all that stuff. But the way this guy was and how grounded he was, you'd think that once people start throwing money at you like that to make these headboards, he would have, gone overboard, hired a bunch of employees and stuff like that. And he just told me, and she mentioned it too, that if he did that, it would take the fun out of it, and he wouldn't want to do it anymore. I think he had all the money he needed, and he just, he wasn't, he just wasn't the type to do that. He just enjoyed doing it, and people paid him for it. So that's amazing. But he definitely found his America. Tragically, in the early 2010s, I think around 2013, lucky number 13, he was driving from Los Angeles back to Bakersfield, and there was a car accident, and he rolled over, and he didn't make it. He was alone, so you always worry when someone has kids or a wife or something like that. When you hear they're in an accident like that, you just worry that there was someone else with him. But he was alone. No drinking. I don't think that guy ever drank in his life, to tell you the truth. I really don't. No drinking. It was just a accident, and he went off the road and I guess hit a giant boulder or something on the side of the road. And that just did it for him. His wife, I guess, still stayed at the river, and that's where she was living. I talked to her. She was still living at the river. The girls had moved out to the river. Now we're working out around that area too. So they're all out there in the desert, and it's just too bad. I mean, this guy, such a tough life to start things out, and then he works it all out. Life starts going. He finds his America, and it just gets cut, gets cut short. Happens to too many people, and I don't know. I guess that's just, death is not the end of the journey. It's part of the journey. That's what they say, but you still got someone that's missing, and they're missing from their family, and that's horrible. I'm getting all worked up again. I gotta quit telling you guys these stories. I'm a mess afterwards. I will tell you one funny thing that he did. Oh man, sorry. Now got my nose messed up. So, we were running in the woods. So you're doing your PT thing, and sometimes your best time. You gotta go down this path into the woods, and then make it back to a point, and see what your best time is. This freaking idiot. So Clark gets ahead of someone, which was rare because he was never ahead of anyone. Well, he ducks behind a bush and waits for the next person to come by. So I'm following everyone up because I got to wait for everyone to go. So I'm following everyone up. And the guy that is in front of me, Clark, jumps out of the bushes, scared this guy so bad. I just remember the look on the guy's face all... I honestly think the guy pissed his pants. That's what happens. You don't let the cooks run with the infantry in the morning. I'll never forget the look on his face. Clark didn't even stick around to laugh. He just kind of got a snicker, started running back down the path. Meanwhile, I'm stuck on a path with some dude that's going through some serious, traumatic episode. I think he thought a bear was jumping out of the woods or something like that. But yeah, that poor guy, I don't think he ever forgave Clark for that. I think Clark for a while started going to another mess hall where you get your food because this guy was a cook. And I think he was afraid the guy was going to screw with his food, so he started going someplace else. So that's the story about Clark and how he found his America. All the way from Mobile, Alabama to California to the California-Arizona border. Maybe it was not bad, actually. but Bullhead City's in Arizona. I think they're just north of there. God, Bullhead City's hot. If you've never been to Bullhead City, you go to a hotel there, and I went there a couple times when I was a stand-up comedian, and it's like August, and I go out to get in the pool to cool off, you know, and it doesn't help. It's almost the exact opposite of a typical pool. You don't need a heater. You need like a refrigeration system to it. That's how hot it is there. It was horrible. Nothing like jumping in a looking to, you know, cool off, and you jump in a slightly warm swimming pool. It was horrible. All right, so that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you tomorrow with our next video, which Monday's a good one. Don't forget to give the video a big thumbs up, guys. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.